Ever wonder why the world's top sales reps seem to close with some sort of secret tool in their arsenal? Believe it or not, that tool is actually a book. Today, we're going to be going over the top 10 sales books that transformed our careers from being bottom of the leaderboards and pretty dismal to top of the leaderboards and now helping coach other people to get the same results that we have. By the end of this video, you'll have a full list of those books where you can apply and take those skills you're learning here to your calls, to your appointments, and close those deals. Let's dive in.
A lot of what we're walking through today are some of what either took us from very beginner reps to starting getting results and then starting to have results through a lot of the ups and downs and to getting results we wanted. We're so excited. We pulled these off our bookshelves to share with you today.
Literally pulled them off.
Do you want to start?
Yeah, I'll dive in here. Okay, so the very first book that we're going to look into it's actually funny. This is the first book for both of us.
Yes.
That we read, which we just kind of talked through today.
So this was before we met each other.
Yeah.
Both of us at the very beginning of our sales career read this book.
Yeah. All right.
So much.
Drum roll. Here it is. How I Raised Myself from Failure to Success in Selling by Frank Bettger. It looks like Betker, but he says Betcher. Like bet your bottom dollar, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So the really cool thing about this book is this, again, was one that we read early in our sales career. And for a little context with me, I actually read it kind of out of desperation. I was at a point where I was about 2 weeks away from getting walked out the door in my first very high cold calling, very tough first sales job. And a friend of mine recommended it to me. And the really cool thing about this is that it's truly a beginner's guide to a successful sales career. So a little context on this. So Frank was very much a struggling insurance salesman, and he thought he couldn't communicate well. He thought he couldn't close well. And he ended up getting an invitation to one of Dale Carnegie's speaking classes. And so he learned how to communicate effectively, but he started realizing that by applying simple principles, he kind of calls them like building blocks, but of different things like enthusiasm, organization, closing strategies, by focusing on one topic per week. It actually has 13 in the book. It became a building block for a foundation of an extremely successful sales career. So I would say for me, like, I was really at a point where I was struggling so much in sales. But if you are in the beginning of your sales career and you're just wondering where is a great place for me to start, I would highly, highly recommend getting this book. Frank just does a great job of laying everything out and taking those actionable principles on a weekly basis. Really, in just a few months, you can transform your career if you apply it. So that would be my first one with Frank.
So good.
Yeah.
So good. Couldn't echo that more. I agree. But let's go to number 2.
Ooh.
This, for any of my friends who are watching and who know us well, you know that I'm very much about getting people out of the victim mode and helping people take the lids off their goals and what they believe they're able to do.
Yeah.
And so truly this book, it is called Burn Your Goals. And it is the last thing I expected to help me, but it's helping yourself move from having goals to having commitments and things you can control that you're following through on. And I will say, I think that so many people set goals wrong because they essentially have a wish list. I want to make 100,000. I want to make 500,000. They want these things and they have no idea how they're going to get there. Yeah. And they get in some kind of accountability group with positive peer pressure, which is great. And then they throw out this lofty goal, and then every week they're coming up like, I just didn't get there. I just didn't get there. And what you have to do, this is what we coach on a lot, is reverse engineer. Based on this goal, what do my actions need to be? Yeah. And how am I thinking about the actions? And what do I believe about my ability? Like, what is your self-image to be able to get there? And you have to effectively go after your self-image, go after the thoughts, build and commit to the actions that will help you get the results. And it truly is who you become that makes all the difference. It's why I hated business and hated sales years ago and have fallen in love with it. And it's my favorite thing to share on and teach on now. So could not recommend this book enough, especially for those of you who maybe have had success before, but just can't get yourself there for whatever reason now. This will help you so much.
On to number 3. So we're going to talk about one of my favorites, which we actually just discovered maybe a year and a half ago, which
Last couple of years.
Go Givers Sell More. And there's another book called The Go Giver, which is a great allegorical tale that one of our favorites. You're smiling because you love it.
I will say, if there's any book I've probably read more than any other, over and over, there were several years I read it multiple times a year. It is The Go Giver.
Yeah.
It absolutely transformed how I think about business. So this is the follow-up book, right?
Yeah. And this one too. So, the Go Giver is a red book and this one's a green book. So if you have a favorite holiday out there, there's a little, fun side note. But
she loves Christmas.
yes, I do. Oh, you said a fun little Christmas thing. But when it comes to this book, so the really cool thing is that the overall theme of the entire book is to think in terms of others' interests. Yes. A lot of times when we work with salespeople, they will come to us and say, I need to be closing and I need to be doing this and I need to hit quota. And we gotta go back a little bit and be like, okay, if this is what you're thinking about on every single phone call you have or prospect meeting that you're going into, how is that going to come across to the person that you're speaking with? And so the main great thing about this book, there's a bunch of different laws that he goes through. Bob Berg, the author, he talks about the law of value and how the value you provide to someone or a group of people is also in direct proportion to the law of compensation. And he breaks that down a lot more in the book, but also, the law of influence, the law of authenticity, being able to share from the heart with people and truly connect with your prospect, not just seeing them as a number, will then in turn affect the law of receptivity. So he breaks down all these different laws. At the end of the day, when I read it, I realized that the more value I provided, in fact, the more I blew my prospect's mind in anything that I did or the people that I was trying to add value to, that was where the compensation came from. So if you're looking to kind of get a mindset of how can I give when I'm selling versus just try to take and get something for myself, this is a great book to do. So we've had so many people who read this book and the results they say from the mindset of being a giver in sales truly transformed their paycheck massively. So I would highly recommend this one for anyone who's looking for a great book.
And we have story after story on that book in particular, just over the last year or so.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Of how I flipped that for people. If you're only thinking about you, people can tell.
100%. So. And also, before we get moving here, we would love to hear your favorite book. So if you have one, I want to see it dropped in the comments because we do read every single one of those and we would love to know if we can learn from any of yours as well. So put that favorite book in the comments. We'd love to read it.
Yes. All right. Number 4.
Okay.
I'm not going to spend a ton of time here, even though to me, this is just a fun, hack yourself sales book. When you get into it, the very first chapter is basically called Kick Your Own Rear. And it's learning how to motivate yourself, learning how to get through.
That's a title. Kick Your Own Rear.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's more, you just have to read it and you'll understand. But I will say this helped me learn how to use humor in sales. Yeah. This helped me learn to absolutely, without question, stay on the follow-up process until customers had followed through on their end or had told me that they no longer wanted what they told me they did. There are so many little hacks in here. It's very readable. There are so many little bullet points through it, funny cartoon characters through it. But again, just so many good fundamentals of what shape you as a salesperson. So I could take more time. If anything, I will say this is the book I was reading when I started in my freight career and it was wrapping year 1 and I had worked with a lot of different small customers and I was still trying to find that really large account that I could take off with and work side by side with. And there was one company I followed up with for over a year because of what I learned here that then became a client that tripled my book size and made me 6-figure plus earner in that arena. So very fun, but very powerful if you apply what you read here.
Yeah, the tenacious follow-up, a lot of people don't realize how effective that is.
True.
Okay, next book to look at here is...
one of my favorites.
It wouldn't be one that people would consider, this is like a sales book necessarily. Sure. But the more that we've worked with people, the more we've learned that what you're thinking about automatically transcends into what comes out of your mouth. Crazy
Yes.
idea. So this is a book. We just found this about a year ago, but it's called With Winning in Mind. It is by Lanny Basham. I believe that's how you say his name. So he was an Olympic rifle shooter. And he is I think it says in the book here, but I think he won like 4 or 5 gold medals. But he's spoken to the Navy SEALs, the United States Secret Service, like very high level type of people. And it's all about what you're thinking about. So he has a whole mental management system that he had to come up with. How it even started was he went to the Olympic Games in the 70s. It was his first time. And he ended up winning, I believe it was either the silver. I think it was silver, or I was going to say, or the bronze, but he won the silver medal. He realized the reason he won the silver medal was because he didn't actually have the self-image to believe that he should get the gold medal.
And he breaks it down there why.
There was some stuff in his past that he kind of goes into, but the point is he deals a lot with the subconscious. And in sales, we like to say that we're actually mental athletes, because if your mental game isn't as sharp as attack when you're on that phone or going into to meet that prospect, it's going to come across and it's going to show in your numbers. And so the impact for me that it really helped with was I realized that what I was thinking about and how I thought about myself drastically impacted. If I saw myself as a multiple 6-figure earner in sales, all of that was going to be showing up in my day-to-day, my habits, my actions, everything I was doing, my work ethic. So really the whole book is about how to get yourself to believe that you can win, and really putting you in the driver's seat despite the market, despite the leaderboard, despite anything that's around you, and you kind of being in control of your destiny. So one of my favorites by far.
So good. Yeah. Especially those of you who have been athletes or high level in other arenas and now coming into sales.
Yeah.
It helps you compete to win. So good. Agreed. Number 6, and we are picking up speed here. I think a lot of salespeople, a lot of those in personal development, are very familiar with how to win friends and influence people.
Oh, yeah, sure.
This one, I think the title is formatted similarly. Totally different author, totally different book, but how to win customers and keep them for life. And truly, I will say, what has elevated us from just being hunters in sales to being highly effective entrepreneurs and having books of business that send referrals is learning the customer service, learning to think like your customer, what they want to buy, what they care about. And you'll hear this as a common theme through some of these books that we're going through. But again, you think about yourself, others can tell. You think about them, you talk like them, you get in their shoes, you ask questions, you reflect back what you hear on what they want. People will pick up on that.
There's kind of a familiar phrase in marketing, but it's chasing your avatar. And the avatar being your ideal person, whether it can be age, income bracket, whoever it is, but you getting in the mind of your prospect.
Yes.
So that's extremely important. So
knowing what they're looking for.
Exactly.
Yes.
All right. Moving on to number 7, we have Fanatical Prospecting by Jeb Blount, one of my all-time favorites. Yep. And if we could go through all of the pages here, the funny thing is that I would say it comes down to one 4-letter word. W-O-R-K, work. At the end of the day, most people could prospect and they just choose not to. Yeah. What we found in our sales career is that it takes work. It takes grit. Yeah. And I'll share a quick story on this. So I remember when I was in my very first sales job where I was reading how I raised myself from failure to success in selling, And I watched everyone around me who a lot of them were seasoned sales reps. And so they would hop on the phones and they were doing, their 30 to 40 dials a day. And the crazy thing was they were closing deals. And for me over here, I was a newbie. I was getting in there. I was averaging 100 to 150 manual cold calls every single day. Yeah. You could not have said anything about my work ethic. Let's just say that. Well, here's what ended up happening. Because I was willing to be fanatical and get into the prospecting mode and do more than anybody else and coachable, it ended up catching up to everyone else. So about 2 weeks prior, I was just about to be walked out the door. I ended up closing a deal at like 3 p.m. on the Friday where I needed to get my last deal before I would have been kicked out, basically. So a lot of stress. Story for another time. Yeah. The very next, I think it was a week or two out, I ended up closing the biggest deal on the team. And everyone was like, oh my gosh, how did you do it? And I'm like, do you see your 30 to 40 dials a day where you're just relying on your old stuff that you learned at your old job?
Yeah.
I'm learning every day. I'm applying things. I'm gaining the coaching. And because of that work ethic, that set a foundation for my sales career. And so I would say at the end of the day, sales is work. It's a 4-letter word that most people don't like, but if you're going to be successful at anything, you have to learn at the end of the day to be fanatical. And there's a lot of great mindset on here on how to do that. So
couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And the right work ethic with the right attitude
Yes.
and mindset produces the results. All right, moving on to book number 8. This was not on our first top 10 sales list.
It actually
I would not call it a sales book, but it was on our bookshelf. And I think it is so powerful to how effective sales truly happen. And so it is Crucial Conversations. Any leader or any vet in the industry has probably read this at some point. This is all about how to handle the high stakes conversations.
Yes.
So whether that be the high end buyer, whether that be a conflict where you're accused of something and you've got to explain to management, something went south for one of your customers and you've got to let them know and tell them how you're going to fix it for them. It guides you through that. And I will just say, I think that almost all of my largest accounts, and for sure all of my most loyal customers, came from when things went wrong. And so for a long time, it's easy to get, again, in the victim mode of, oh my gosh, this happened to my customer. I can't even control it. It's not my fault. And you just want to be a victim for things that are happening. Versus if you see the opportunity there, everybody has stuff hit the fan. And if you can control your response to it again, and if you can get in there and say, hey, here's what we're going to do about it, and how can I walk through this with you? This is powerful. I will say one other point that I learned from that book is learning the lenses that you're hearing stories through and starting to understand a lot of what you hear isn't necessarily what they are saying. Again, and so if you can get out of the mindset of everybody thinks the way I do, everybody wants what I want, and you can start listening for what they are looking for, that can guide you so much. So very, very powerful. We have 9 and 10 coming up. I kind of want to jump in with number 9 and let you wrap up.
We're going out of order?
We're going out of order. Okay. This Never Split the Difference, I have heard about for so many years. One of the best negotiation books. And honestly, I put it off because I wasn't all that interested in negotiation. I do it a lot. It's not my favorite part of a sales process until I did read this book. And I will just say, this is absolutely a theme that you hear me say through all the books. But when you can help your prospect or your future customer understand that you get them, that you are with them, that you are looking for things in their best interest, you don't have to split the difference. You don't have to barter for lowest price. You can create value by showing them how they will get exactly what they want working with you. And so much more I can say here. I will add in, it is one of the easiest reads. It's one of the books that I couldn't put down because there are so many stories. The guy who wrote it, Chris Voss, was a negotiator for FBI, several other places, but hostage negotiator.
Yes.
People's lives were at stake when he was getting on the phone with these murderers and getting them to understand he was on their side, but working to a solution with them to get hostages out alive. And the stories he tells and the practical tools you can get from that, I was blown away by. So while it's been on my list for years, I read this months ago and have been able to apply so much from it. So highly, highly recommend. We're at number 10.
Oh my gosh, the final one. We did it. Okay.
Here we go.
All right. So the last and final book that we're going to go over here today is going to be The Entrepreneur Roller Coaster. It is a book that you wouldn't think, why would this be in the sales category? So what's really cool, Darren Hardy, he has some great books out there. One of them is called The Compound Effect. I guess we're giving more than 10 books here. But The Compound Effect, another great book, Atomic Habits as well, not by Darren Hardy, but another favorite book as well. But his main point with the whole book, with the entrepreneur roller coaster, is that anything with regard to business and success all ties back to sales. If you're going to have a successful business, you have to know the ability to sell well. It has to be a trait that you have. Yes. So literally in this book about entrepreneurship, he has entire chapters dedicated to how to effectively sell. And it's quite a lot of the principles that we went over, getting into the shoes of your customer, or, chasing the avatar, if you will, but filling needs, fanatical prospecting. He talks about, as a real estate agent before he started another company, how he was out there like crazy prospecting for people. So if you kind of want like a really good all-in-one summary of all the books that we've talked about, I think this does a really great job of it. So
yeah, I will say that book, above all others, helped me understand why sales was so important.
Yeah.
I entered the industry knowing I wanted to lead a school program at some point, wanting to run a business at some point, but having zero desire to do sales. And when I read that book, it helped me understand how everything comes down to your personal ability to influence and lead. And again, Mary Beth already fleshed out a lot of the rest of it, but we will just say we're actually recording this on Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah.
This has been such a journey for us, starting to put content out here for others to share in that journey.
Yep.
And be able to reach everything that has been on your heart. We are so grateful to be able to do this, and especially for all of our friends, for those who have poured into us, who have been part of our journey. Thank you. We're so grateful for you. We are so grateful to be doing this, to be, again, consolidating all of what we've learned over these last years and helping as many people as we can become effective in this arena. I know there was one last thing that I was going to say on the entrepreneur roller coaster, and that is our heart's desire for salespeople is that you are at a place where you can use that for your family, where you're able to use that in your own business. You're able to use that to lead, to impact your community. And I do think that book, again, helps put into perspective why these skills are so vital along the way.
Yeah.
Those are my last thoughts. Did you want to close with anything?
All right, let's do it.
Okay.
So with gratitude, as it is Thanksgiving Day for today, there you have it, the 10 must-read titles that if you would like to truly transform your sales career, you can. But here's the thing we always say, you can read every book out there. Until you apply it, it truly doesn't have the effect. And so our biggest encouragement is read these books, apply the principles, reach out to a coach of some kind that you can, even for one-on-one coaching. And we're so grateful that you're here. Feel free to like, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell. We are going to be putting out videos. And last thing, if you thought of anything of, hey, I would really love to know about this topic, please comment below. This is kind of the start for us here. And so we are wanting to know as many topics that are out there that people are wanting to learn about. So thank you for watching. Happy reading. And here's to closing all those big deals. We'll see you soon.